Here we go again. Round 2, Australian Open is done and we're live. So I'll give people a bit of time to get here and we will kick right into things. Hey guys, welcome back to the tennis vlog as always. And if you're here and you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button so you can stay updated with everything that's going on this channel when I get here in time. Still a bit late. I'm sorry about the later time today. Had a full day. This was the only real time I could do it where it fitted in, really. And I mean, it's quite convenient I did it later anyway because the tennis ended up finishing at 3:15 a.m. local time. So that was a bit crazy with Konta and Muguruza finishing so late. But big results in the second round. I mean, we still haven't had many upsets, which is strange, I guess, for a Grand Slam. Most high-profile upset would probably be Dominic Thiem in the men's draw, who lost today to... I mean, I don't know if I've been getting this pronunciation wrong. I've been calling the guy Alexei Papirin. I heard someone call him Alexei Popyrin or something today. 19-year-old Australian. Thiem retired when he was 2 sets and a break down in that match, having seemed in discomfort a bit in the second set. But credit to the Aussie because he really went after that win, and I could have watched him all day, really. He was striking so deep and so effortlessly. He seemed really chilled out, even in the face of that occasion. And yeah, executing really well at the net, just looking really comfortable. And it was really interesting to watch him. I'd never watched him. Obviously, I'd seen bits and pieces, but I'd never watched him properly before. So that was a good one. And then we've got the usuals moving through. You've got Djokovic, Federer, Nadal getting through rather nicely. On the women's side, you've got Simona Halep fighting through. That's 2 back-to-back 3-set wins that she's got now, heading into a third-round meeting with Venus Williams, who's also got 2 back-to-back 3-set wins. So both of them showing quite a bit of grit there. Caroline Wozniacki, the defending champion, is still in, which is almost a surprise to me in a way, but she hasn't had the toughest first 2 opponents. But I did predict that Wozniacki would potentially go out early this tournament because, I mean, she hasn't come in having had the best form in her past few tournaments, as she was really comfortable in Australia last year, and she's almost finding her stride like that again this year, I think. And yeah, she's looked really relaxed and really finding her groove during the first couple of matches. But anyway, I mean, hopefully there's not as many people here today. I didn't think this would be as good a time to do it, but if you all give me your questions and I can... Really, that's interesting. Yeah, you can give me your questions, I can have a go at answering them. If there's not as many people here and we don't have as many questions, I'm sure I'll find a lot to talk about anyway, because if you've seen my videos, you've seen how long they are, and yeah, I never have shortage of things to talk about. So, oh my words, that is true. Someone said the biggest shock in the tournament was Frances Tiafoe beating Kevin Anderson, and that is absolutely true, but given that that was yesterday, and every day feels like a couple of weeks at the moment in the tennis, I had pretty much forgotten about that one. Yes, Kevin Anderson losing to Frances Tiafoe, that was a massive shock, really, because Anderson... can't pronounce names at the moment, tiredness. Anderson came into the tournament in really good form. I think for me, I've probably said this before, but for those who haven't heard, since 2017 at the US Open, when Anderson made his first Grand Slam final, he has been super impressive in the way that he sustained his form, because previously he'd been in the top 20... Come on, Abigail. He'd been in the top 10, in the top 20, and he'd had decent form, and then he dropped off for a good while and hadn't really had much success against the top players, hadn't been having much success in terms of his general results. But after that US Open final, the way he was able to maintain a strong mentality, maintain the big serve when he needed it, backing it up, like he's got a great all-court game as well, he's brilliant at the net, that was really impressive. And so he's been a consistent contender. So for him to go out early against Tiafoe, who is very talented but hasn't been able to really string his form together as far as things have gone, I mean, that was a big shock, but a great win for Tiafoe because he has the talent. We've seen it before. We saw him push Roger Federer to 5 sets in the first round of the US Open in 2017. So he's been on the scene for a while. We've been aware of his talents, but maybe this is what he needs to push through. It was really funny, actually. I saw part of the press conference. Someone had just shared a bit of it on Twitter, and someone asked Tiafoe, how far do you think you can get in this tournament in the third round, and laughed and said, oh, I'm worried about the third round. He should take confidence from that win over Anderson and believe that he can go deeper into the draw, because Anderson coming into the tournament having won his first title of the year and done incredibly well, that's a big win. That really is a big win, and that opens up his section of the draw a bit. So yeah, good on Tiafoe, and thank you for pointing out to me that Anderson's loss was the biggest upset, because clearly it was. I just forgot. So let's have a look at some of the questions that are now coming in. I've got to scroll up. You've all come very quick. Here we go. How far do you think Raonic will get? Great question. Milos Raonic, I think, is the surprise of the tournament so far, playing really, really well. And in a way, it shouldn't be surprising because he's so talented. Back in 2016, I thought he was on his way to a Grand Slam title. 2016 was his peak year for producing his best level consistently when he's serving and backing it up the way he did in 2016, when obviously he came from the brink of defeat to defeat Roger Federer in 5 sets at Wimbledon to eventually make it through to the final. So impressive, like seriously, seriously hard to combat. I mean, Federer wasn't playing badly himself, but he just wasn't finding the opening to break through in that match. And that's what Raonic can be like. He can be like this brick wall that you try and get under it, over it, round it, but you can't get through it. And Kyrgios spoke of it after his first round loss. Obviously, Kyrgios always gets a lot of stick for his attitude, for the way he handles himself, for the way he competes or doesn't compete. But actually, Raonic was in vintage form against Kyrgios. He was nailing those serves. He was an absolute force at the net. And even if Kyrgios had been playing better, I think that Raonic would still have won that match. He won it in straights, beat Wawrinka most recently. So the most recent win for him was that 3-4 tiebreak win over Wawrinka this morning, which I didn't see the whole thing because by today, day 4, I'd stayed up pretty much all night for the first 3 nights, and I was absolutely shattered to the point where it was unhealthy. I was very lightheaded and dizzy, and I wanted to get up for Wawrinka Raonic so badly because I knew it was going to be a great match and I'd probably be able to talk about it more on here, but it just wasn't going to be it wasn't going to be good for me in the long run looking at the fortnight going forward. So I want to catch up on the majority of that match and see how things went down. But you know, by all accounts and by what I've seen, Raonic in great form, and to be there as well for those big moments. I mean, Wawrinka, credit to him and confidence boosting for him because he's not been in the greatest form recently. He's been struggling with injury. He was able to keep that so close, and even during Wawrinka's first round when he got through via retirement because he lost the first set and then Gulbis retired, so he got through with a little bit of help. He didn't seem to be in fantastic form, and I was nervous because I thought I predicted this guy to get to the semis. Like, come on, Stan. So that didn't work out, but I mean, he was in a really tough section of the draw. You had Gulbis, Wawrinka, Raonic, and Kyrgios, who could all potentially have made it to the semis. So that was tough, but I mean, good for Wawrinka that he was able to keep it close against a player who's clearly in form and comfortable from every area on the court, and good for Raonic that alongside the physical game, he has the mental aspects as well, the confidence and the ability to stay in the moment when things get really close. 4 tiebreaks there, he won 3 of them. Could have gone to a 5th set and it didn't. So yeah, great stuff from Raonic, and yeah, he's my pick for the semis now. I see him getting into the semi-finals. Maybe he would be Novak Djokovic's biggest challenge, because Djokovic, I'm sure we'll come to him later, looks in decent form now after his win over Jo-wilfried today. Some very impressive signs from him. He obviously had that shock loss to Roberto Bautista Agut, who is in great form. I did not think at this point of the season that I would have watched more Roberto Bautista Agut matches than any other player this season, but I have. I think I've watched about 5, 6 of his matches this year, and he's in great form. He's great to watch at the moment. So, sidetrack. Why did I start talking about Djokovic? Oh yeah, because Djokovic would play Raonic in the semis, and that would be a good match. That's the way I think will go at the moment. Zverev's obviously in the Raonic quarter. He got through today, but he could have done it more easily. So that's signs that maybe he's not quite up to going deep into the event. But yeah, Raonic is doing great. Long story short, he's looking great, looking scary good. Should win his next round. Could beat Zverev if they play each other. So keep an eye on Milos Raonic and see if he suddenly relents, as many players I'm sure will be hoping he does, because no one wants to play him in the form he's in right now. Let's see some more of these questions. I should probably keep my answers a bit shorter as well, or we will be here all evening. Oh, here we go. Djokovic seems really strong. Do you think he will steamroll the tournament? I wouldn't say steamroll. I always think for Djokovic, if he gets through the first rounds, especially as tough first rounds as he has in Australia, because of all the top players, I would say that Djokovic has the toughest draw. If he can get through that, then I think he's actually going to be really tough to deal with in the latter rounds. He'll be battle-hardened, as it were. Sorry, I'm going to have messages come through and it might vibrate and stuff, so sorry, because I'm filming on my phone. What was I talking about? Djokovic, yeah. So by the time he gets to the final rounds, I think he'll be so tough to beat because he'll be so confident and hardened up from what he's come through already. I mean, in a way, I've got to be honest, because Tsonga, who he played today, obviously, and won in straight sets, Tsonga has a great game. That's why he's beaten the Big Four multiple times each. That's why he's put himself in contention for Grand Slam titles. He is capable of big stuff. I mean, the firepower he can get on that forehand, the dictation he can get with it, the serve that he has that actually comes to get him out of trouble so many times. When he's down break points, he'll hammer down aces like it's nothing. I mean, obviously he doesn't do that all the time or he wouldn't be losing in straight sets, but it happens a lot. And yeah, so Tsonga is a tough opponent. The consistency factor is the massive deal for Tsonga, and one of the reasons why it looks less and less and less and less likely that he ever will win a slam and capitalize on the potential he has, because for every phenomenal shot he hits, he will hit an unforced error. But I mean, he still brings quality to the table. So for Djokovic to be able to maintain his own consistency and concentrate on his own side of the net and produce from there, that's impressive that he can come through in straights. And I believe, I mean, he won his first round in straights as well. I should have stats up here so that I don't have to dilly-dally over it. Yeah, obviously against Mitchell Krueger, the American, who put up a good fight. Was really, the scoreline doesn't reflect how hard Djokovic had to work for that one, but I think it's good for him. He's had 2 matches that in a way have been a bit of a battle at times. There have been some questionable moments where he's had to think his way through, but at the same time he's come through without dropping a set. So I'm not going to make any solid predictions on where Djokovic will get, which is, I just realised, is really stupid of me to say because I already predicted him to win the tournament before it began, and I stand by that. He is the leading contender to win, and I think where his physical game may be outflashed by some players who are playing impressive tennis, his mental game should stand the test of the tournament. And I think that's what's really going to make the difference in the latter rounds. It's all up here. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Djokovic, really. If you have any further questions or want to know anything more, then the chat is here. Just let me know. Let's go for... What are your thoughts about the Zverev-Chardy match? Now, what I'm doing at the moment for this tournament in order to keep on top of things is, rather than watch one match and make in-depth notes like I usually do, sometimes I will literally take notes on every single point of a match, which kind of helps me get a good idea of what's going on and what's working pretty well for each player. It gets me stats down and stuff. I for the past few days, because there's been so many matches going on, I will basically watch as many matches as I can, keeping a fair eye on all of them as possible. So for the moment, I think 3 at a time I've been doing for the past few days. So when I had Zverev Chardy on, I also had a couple of other matches on at the same time that I was taking more extensive notes on. But I mean, what I do know is that Zverev had the chance to finish it a lot earlier than he did. And he almost did an Alex de Minaur. I don't know if anyone saw de Minaur's match yesterday, but he had match point to finish it in straight sets against Henry Laaksonen. That's it. I mean, terrible pronunciation because he's Swiss, but if you know him, you know him. He's a tough guy. I mean, he put up a really good fight. But de Minaur, he was up 6-4, 6-2, match point in the tiebreak, and he had it on his racket at one point, and he actually lost the set. And not only that, but then he lost the next set as well. And I thought, this is where it's telling for the next gen players, because I've been saying for the past few weeks in particular, I remember saying it a lot, what's holding back the younger players at Grand Slams is their inability to cope with best of 5 sets as well. It's such a physical game now, and the players that are in the latter years, I guess, I mean, early 30s is still pretty young, but those kinds of players have had so many years of experience in order to have that mental strength deep in the 4th and 5th sets, in order to have the physicality to run with the match when it's going. And that counts for a lot, even if they're not as talented as some of the younger players. Those things are what are going to see you do well in best of 5. And so I thought here, I was like, oh, I can see de Minaur going out in 5 here and learning a big lesson, because I mean, yes, he's a great player. Yes, he can cover the court incredibly well. Yes, he can hit great winners. But does he have the stamina? And does he have the mental strength? And so from de Minaur, I think that was a massive win. Maybe he'll pay the price for it later in the events, because he came into this tournament already having won a title last week, so he's fatigued. But that was a big thing for de Minaur being in, which is something Roger Federer couldn't do against Kevin Anderson at Wimbledon. Sorry if that is a sore spot for anyone. I mean, what a match. But he came through, and then we saw Zverev do the same thing. And for Zverev, I'm not sure it is as positive, because we've seen Zverev come through best of 5 set matches before. Sorry, more stuff coming through if you heard it vibrate. Yeah, we've seen Zverev come through these tough matches before, and it's like, oh, Zverev's edging these matches. Is this a turning point for him? He's doing well mentally, and actually it doesn't really count for anything, and he goes out a couple of rounds later, a round later. But I mean, it is still a positive thing that he was able to edge that particular match, particularly because I think he had trouble with Chardy at the Hopman Cup a couple of weeks ago. He might have lost that match. And so to be able to, I mean, in my draw preview, I think I called Chardy a Frenchman on the decline. And I'm always wary of putting stuff like that. I think the moment I put something like that, you're going to regret that at some point. He's going to cause an upset or something, and you're going to be thinking, yeah, I should not have been that blunt. But no, I mean, Chardy has tons of experience on tour, great slice backhand, troublesome player to deal with, and Zverev steamrolled through that final set. Yeah, he lost a tiebreak where he could have ended it, but he came through, and that is the most important thing at this point in time. I can't go predicting, saying, oh, because he was taken to 5 sets, he's going to go out next round. He's done pretty well, and I was impressed by how quickly he came through the first round against Alias Bedene. Bedene's a decent player. He can put up good resistance. So positives for Zverev. He just needs to take those positives and not think too deeply into things, as the media and whoever's asking him questions about his slam record unwittingly almost making him do. So yeah, that's that on Zverev Chardy. Decent match, decent battle. I'm loving all the 5 setters. Best of 5 for the win. There are matches here that we've seen that show why best of 5 sets is still a unique and great thing that brings so many top moments in this sport. I mean, yes, the night session was pushed a long way back today. Yes, it can maybe mess with the schedule a bit, but I mean, if that's going to be an issue, change change the court for certain matches. I don't know why Garbine Muguruza and Johanna Konta weren't put on a different court when they started their match after midnight. I mean, that makes no sense. So, I mean, don't stop best of 5 because of things like that. There are always other things you can do. Best of 5, test your mentality, test your physicality. It's my favorite sermon. I've done videos on it before. You can check them out. But yeah, there you go. Do you think Naomi Osaka will go through to the finals? Osaka's been doing well. Osaka has a great draw compared to some of the other top players, aka Serena Williams, Venus Williams, Simona Halep, who all ended up in the same quarter. And I believe Garbine Muguruza's in that quarter as well. And after coming through against Konta, she's done incredibly well and maybe playing her way back into form. That's a lethal quarter. So Osaka can be pleased with the draw that she has. Yeah, I expect her to go deep. With the draw she has, honestly, I expect her to make the semi-finals. I don't think she has... I mean, it's tough saying this because she only recently broke through at the top at the US Open, but given her ability, given her form coming into the event, given that she won the last slam, she has no real excuse for going out ahead of the semis unless she meets a really in-form opponent. I mean, it's pretty much what I'm trying to say is it's basically on her racket whether she makes the semis or not, in my opinion. I mean, tell me if you have a different one, but I think by way of her ability, by way of her form, she should probably be making definitely the quarters and potentially the semis as well. And I think if she gets to that stage, we know that she performs better. She said it herself when I interviewed her 2017 maybe. She said that she performs better against the top players, which is evident. She thrives on that occasion, and it still seems to be the case even when she's become a top player herself, when she's won the US Open. So yeah, Osaka should go deep basically, and has the game and the form to get it done, and the game that matches up well to these conditions. Osaka versus Su Wei-Shea. Did they? No, they didn't play each other recently. But that's a good matchup of styles, Osaka versus Su Wei, because you've got Osaka, who's very aggressive, very strong on the serve, who can step into the court when she has a short ball and go for it. So she's an attacking player, she's an aggressive player. And then you've got Su Wei-Shea, who has earned herself a reputation for being one of the trickiest players on tour. She had a great run here, I believe, last year, which really brought her into the limelight again after she'd had a lot of doubles success, but never really been a key star in singles. She's very tricky, lots of slice, lots of drop shots, lots of moving her opponents around, and it's always very interesting when those two styles come head to head. Obviously, the attacking player, I think, should if the attacking player is in form, they will always have the advantage, I believe, against a counterpuncher, because they can basically just keep pushing the counterpuncher or the trickier player around until they can't keep up anymore. That's technically how it should be, but yeah, that is a great matchup of styles there. Lost where I am. Sorry guys, I've completely gone. I don't want to miss anyone, so I'm scrolling back up. What has impressed you most about Venus Williams so far in the matches you've seen in 2019? Do you notice any changes to her game? This is an interesting question because usually, I mean, Venus is the first player I really remember watching in tennis when I was like 9-10 years old. So I've watched a lot of Venus matches over the years, maybe not as much as some who've been around and watching tennis longer than me. But I mean, there's always been the key elements to her game: the big serve, all the variation she gets on it, the backhand, the forehand, so flat and powerful. The net game, she's great at the net when she can get there. Maybe that dropped off a bit in recent years, but I mean, she's bringing it back. What I noticed, I think her movement on the back foot has actually been really good. Venus is never the player I'd put up there for movement and how good it is and that kind of thing. But no, I thought when I was watching her, I thought, you know what, Venus is moving really well on the back foot, and in doing that, she's giving herself more opportunities to get into the place where she can be the one placing the shots, obviously. And yeah, I was impressed by that with her because Venus tends to get quite tired more quickly these days, I think. And I mean, especially impressed that she's come through back-to-back 3-set matches. Will that hurt her in the long run? Maybe, maybe not, because she might not be here in the long run because she's got Simona Halep next, and if she wins that, potentially a matchup with Serena, which is not ideal. But I think Venus is doing great. I'm very impressed with the grit she's shown, the way she's been able to regroup, the way she's been able to be there in the big moments. That's something that she's always had, which makes her the champion that she is. And she's got a lot to be pleased with and things she can work on as well. But yeah, the movement I've been impressed with, because she's not always moving that well, and she's not always running for everything anymore, which is understandable to preserve energy. When they were younger, I remember Venus and Serena saying that their dad would tell them, run for everything, even if it looks like you're going to miss the ball, keep running, because that actually has an effect on your opponent's mentality, that you are going to run down everything. Maybe it will make them go for more and miss. So I was surprised at what I've seen her running for, and how I've seen her moving has been impressive. How do you explain the tension on court in today's Djokovic match? I'm not sure what you mean. I saw most of the match, due to the fact that the tennis has been pushed back today. I had prior arrangements that I couldn't alter, and therefore there were other matches like the Conta match, which I had to talk about on the radio, that I had to catch up with first. So unless something happens in the later stages, I'm not sure about any tension. Let me know, but I'm unaware. Thoughts about Roger Federer's next opponent, Taylor Fritz. Fritz was big on the American tennis scene a few years ago when he was, I think he's the same age as me, but when he was 17, 18, I think the Americans thought he was going to be the next big thing. Great mover around the court, could compete well with the top guys, just has quite a fluid game, really. Yeah, he was... I don't think... I never saw anything stand out about him. Yeah, he was quite speedy and stuff. Probably I thought he was a bit overhyped, to be honest, which maybe proved true for a couple of years when he kind of dropped off, wasn't getting the results. But I'm not sure if he's played Federer before. I have a feeling that he might have done. But obviously he's getting his results back up. He's made the third round of a slam, which is a positive thing in itself, along with other young Americans like Francis Tiafoe, who, oh no, he's Canadian. I'm half asleep. But, you know, Riley Opelka had a good run in there, kind of him, Opelka, Tommy Paul were all kind of in the same bracket. Federer, Fritz, maybe not. Oh no, yeah, no, Federer's won their only meeting, Stuttgart 2016, so a while ago. 3 sets on a grass court. And Federer is like up there on grass. I mean, Federer's king of grass for some people, for most people. So, signs say that could be close. I think Federer himself is in great form. Dan Evans, his last match with Dan Evans, I don't know if you saw that. That was a phenomenal match. In terms of the level from both sides of the nets, multiple nets, I don't think so. Yeah, it was great. Evans plays, I wouldn't say he's very alike to Federer in certain ways, but in other ways, you know, he's looking to do the same kind of things, slicing deep, coming to the net, trying to put the pressure on. He's got a lot of variety, one-handed backhands, etc. Yeah, so they were kind of trying to do a lot of the same things, and they were both doing it to a very high standard. They were both pushing each other to the edges of the court, using the parts of the court closest to the net, driving deep to the baseline, sending each other side to side, coming to the net. Everything was in that match. It was like one big highlights reel. It was great, and yet Federer still managed to win in straights. So that shows that Federer is in pretty dominant form, and as well his mental state is there. And what's been a real problem for Federer, I believe, since maybe even the Australian Open last year, his confidence somehow dropped. It just went. And that was the issue, I believe, for Federer when he would come up against the likes of Novak Djokovic in the latter rounds of majors. There was this kind of mental barrier that stopped him from performing to optimum potential for the entire match. And I saw him going through something a little similar over the past year. He's just not had the same head game. I mean, in the US Open, for example, he was kind of sticking to one game plan that wasn't working, and he got almost, against John Millman, he got kind of panicky almost and was just serve and volley, try and make it work, and it wasn't working. So, yeah, you know, Federer is in great form, and I think that should serve him well against Fritz. Dan Evans brought a great high standard to the table, and I'd be surprised if Fritz could match that. He needs Federer to drop off a bit, definitely, and then it could get close. But honestly, I see Federer coming through. I can't remember the original question, but that was fun. What will be the key to Venus Williams versus Simona Halep third round match? Consistency is the main thing, is the big thing in all of tennis, I think. Strong mentality, but to go deeper. I mean, I think Venus has... I don't know. Both of them have had pretty tough opposition in the first two rounds. Venus most recently played Alizé Cornet, who was mad trouble for Serena Williams during, I think, the 2014 season. Beat her 3 times, once via retirement, but 3 times still. In the first round, Mihaela Buzarnescu, who was one of the tour's biggest risers last year. Simona Halep in her first round played Kaia Kanepi, who beat her at the US Open, and looks almost ready to do the same in the first round this week. And just came past Sofia Kenin, who has just won her first WTA title, who packs a good punch, who she was nerveless really on the break points down, the way she just stepped up and went for the lines and went for the winners and finished things off, and she was so intense and hung so close during the rallies. I think Simona Halep has quite a bit to work on from her first 2 matches. Maybe that's a positive thing going into a match with Venus. I think in her most recent match against Kenin, her nerves let her down. She could have won that match in straight sets, but she was so tight in the tiebreak. She just wasn't going for stuff, and that was allowing Kenin to step up and make her move and kind of almost push Halep around. And Halep is technically a kind of counter-punching player. She can use her opponent's pace, she can be powerful, but by nature she's kind of a counter-puncher, great on the defense. So she was allowing Kenin in. So no, if Venus is in form and dictating, Halep's going to find that a difficult match. Venus leads their head-to-head 3-2, so it's close, but it does show that Venus has had the edge more often, obviously, because she's leading the head-to-head. So the key for Venus is protect her serve, because, I mean, if she can protect her serve and perform with her serve to optimum level, she has a stronger serve than Halep. Halep can always improve her serve. She's smaller, she has a different style with it. I think Venus, if she has a good serving day, that's already a massive step ahead for her when it comes to facing someone like Halep, who doesn't have the same power, variety, precision, etc. on that particular weapon in her game. So that's big for Venus. She needs to cut down the unforced errors. There have been unforced errors at bad times for Venus, which have meant that she isn't always in the... I've kind of lost my train of thought. No, yeah, because in some of the moments where she could have ended it more quickly, I think for Venus, there have been those unforced errors, and she's kind of dropped off a bit, and she's been able to save herself. But what I'm thinking is that Halep and Venus should technically... I don't know why I lost my thought train earlier. Halep and Venus should technically up their games for this round, because I don't think either of them have been in top form. Like, obviously they haven't been in top form, or they would have been winning in straight sets. I think that both of them have had drops in their matches where they've been forgiven by their opponents. And yeah, they should technically be upping their level. It's hard to say what will happen until the match starts. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot for them both to work on. What was Halep? Halep was just pushing a lot when she should have been going for it. She can't afford those moments of tightness against Venus unless Venus is going to come out and go a bit cold like she has done during previous matches. So in other words, I mean, I can't remember what the question was. Or what will be the keys to the match? Being consistent, protecting serves, and I think going for it a bit on the return. It's been I haven't seen a lot of the women that I've watched really going for it on the return. Muguruza Konta was amazing. They were both absolutely ripping it, going for it. They were fantastic. But in all the matches I've seen, some of them have been, if you're conservative, obviously you can't afford to lose the point straight off. But if you're too conservative, you're not going to make the breakthrough you need. You can't rely on a tie break, really. So, yeah, there you go. So, consistency, protect your serve, go for it on the return. And I find that one hard to predict, to be honest. Did you get my question about Anisimova and Sabalenka? I don't think I did. Was that on YouTube? I don't know if I actually did a post to advertise this video this time around. I'll check, but no, send it through again because I'm sorry, I don't think I actually got that one. I'll check. Third round match between, but anyway, Amanda Anisimova is 17-year-old who made waves last year on tour. She beat Petra Kvitova at the age of 16, I believe, in Indian Wells, and did that by being aggressive, ripping the ball, proving that she's a force to be reckoned with, basically. And she hasn't been so much on the scene since then. There have been other players, younger players, gaining headlines, rising up. What was I going to say? Oh, there's a player's name I couldn't remember in the last video. It was Olga Danilovic, who came out of the blue to win her first WTA title at the age of 17 last year. So, I mean, there's been players like that have taken the headlines, but Anisimova is a good talent. She was all anyone was talking about for a few days. So that is going to be an interesting match. Sabalenka played Katie Bolter last time. She just had the edge in maturity of game, going for it at the right moments, constructing the points, using the firepower on that forehand, moving up the court, very consistent from the mid-court. So I think, I mean, there were times when it looked like she was going to give way to frustration, but on the whole, she kept herself mentally very well as well. So that is going to be a tough match for Anisimova. She might find that Sabalenka just plays her game better than she herself does. I think that Sabalenka probably has more variation. She definitely has more experience. But, I mean, Anisimova has proven herself, so that has all the potential to be a great match, potentially a 3-set match. So, yeah, it's... I mean, there's a lot of good matches coming up, really. There were a ton of good matches today alone. I looked at the order of play and it was packed. It's been a brilliant first few days of the tournament. Oh, how far will Pierre-Hugh Herbert go? He did well beating Hyun Chung. He did massively well. I feel really happy for Herbert because he's been, in my book, a promising singles player for years. But then he started having success in doubles with Nicolas Mahut, and obviously they've done fantastic. They're actually probably regarded as, I think some people regard them as the best doubles team. They're definitely up there. There's a group of them that are very consistent, and they're one of them. And they've won slams, obviously, and I think that's helped Herbert in terms of his variety. He's great at the net. He can play from all areas of the court, and he's been unfortunate in that he's had some really tough early slam draws in the past and tough ATP draws, full stop. But that's a great win over Chung. That's now both the young semi-finalists of last year, Kyle Edmund and Hyun Chung, out before the end of the second round, which is... That's disappointing for them. They're going to lose a lot of ranking points, and they had tough draws, both of them. Edmund with Thomas Berdych in the first round, Chung with Herbert, who, no, he's not seeded, and no, he's never done anything monumental on tour, but he's very talented and a tough draw and has taken out top players before. So, I mean, he came through from 2 sets to love down in the first round, which is why we have best of 5, to give players that opportunity. And against Bradley Clarn as well, who is, he's a really solid player, the American, and can play well at the front of the court as well. So, oh no, that was Chung. That was Chung that came past Clarn. No, I'm not going to remember everyone's draws, I'm afraid. Not at this point. I'm so tired. But yeah, I think that Herbert, I'm not sure what his draw looks like from here, to be honest. I can't remember where he was in it. Let me just check quickly. Raonic. Well, maybe he won't get any further. That's so unfortunate. That is so unfortunate for Herbert, because he's a great player and he's obviously in decent form. But yeah, I just think Raonic will win his next few matches because he's doing so well. And when you've got an aggressive player like that who's setting it up with his serve and is able on the return as well, you're in trouble. So, I mean, Herbert can give him a run for his money, probably. He's dealt with big serves in doubles, in singles. And if he can get into rallies, he's a player who can mix it up and maybe make Raonic think a bit more, maybe throw him off his rhythm. So there's potential there, but I still think Raonic is the favourite for that match, and I think most people would think the same. Yeah, hi to you as well. Yeah, I think Djokovic will meet Raonic in semis, yeah. I think so. Djokovic goes all the way without dropping a set. He'll beat Federer's record of 36 straight sets in slams. Now, I think Djokovic, I mean, I'm afraid to say who's playing what next now, because I feel like I've got a ton wrong this evening, but I think Djokovic might be playing Shapovalov next. I'm going to check, and I'm scared of getting it right. I'm correct. Yes, finally. Yeah, Djokovic is playing Shapovalov in round 3. Shapovalov's very confident. I think I saw him say that it would be a dream to play Djokovic on the biggest show court. This is a player who's pulled off big wins at a young age. Obviously, he's beaten Rafael Nadal in Canada under the pressure of the home crowd. He pulled that one off and that was, I think that was a year and a half ago now as well. So he was 17, 18, I think 17. So, I mean, he's a very capable player, great one-handed backhand, not hyped for no reason. And I don't think he's been in fantastic form lately, but he definitely has great ability. So that should be interesting, and maybe Shapovalov could be the player to take a set off Djokovic if he catches him unawares, but Djokovic has just been so composed when he needs to be. And no, he's not always the flashiest player, obviously, but he can play from anywhere. He can pull off some outrageous shots when he needs to. The angles, the opening up of the court, the getting it done, the outlasting. It's just great from Djokovic, and Shapovalov is first going to have to go through his physical game and then go through his mentality. And that's a really tough thing to do. Let's go down. Okay, the main question was, do you think come on. Do you think Anisimova versus Sabalenka will be the start of a Navratilova versus Evert style rivalry? Well, they had a massive rivalry, so I don't think I'd be ready to predict anything on that scale of things. But, I mean, because they're very early in their careers. Sabalenka, I forget, as I tweeted, I think, the other day, I forget she's only 20. The way she's got such focus, the way she's got so much going on in her game and is able to bring it together to get these wins, the way she's progressed so steadily, even if it's been in a short space of time, is really impressive to me. And it's amazing, really, that she's as young as she is. And yes, we've seen 2 20-year-olds, Jelena Ostapenko and Naomi Osaka, win slams recently. But, I mean, Sabalenka just seems that bit older when I watch her play. But Anisimova, obviously very young. So there's all the potential for them to come through. But with players Anisimova's age as well, she has great talent. So I do believe that she will go on to become probably a consistent top player. But you never always know, especially with junior players trying to break through. I mean, you can have the talent, but if you don't have the consistency, you don't have the mental strength, talent's only going to get you so far. So it's very hard to make predictions when players are young. Yeah, I do like Songa. I mean, I've even said in one of my other videos that when I first started watching tennis, Songa was like the first male player that I was really like a fan of, I guess. I just love his game, the way he brings out the big serve, big forehand, you know. He's a great player. My family are Songa fans. Everyone loves Songa here. I think like when I started trying to do tennis journalism, I guess, when I was 17. I think the first piece I wrote was a piece on Songa and about how people shouldn't write him off. But I don't think that, I mean, that doesn't make me biased because I can stand back and see, yeah, Songa probably isn't going to win a Grand Slam, however much talent he has. There's going to be a limit as long as he doesn't do something about his backhand, as long as he has this inconsistency in matches. But all the players that I was a fan of growing up, I never was a fan of someone because of their nationality. I was always a fan of a player because of their game. And honestly, I would be a fan of a player if they were doing well. I just loved when someone was dominating and someone was winning, and I'd be like, yeah, you do your thing and I'll support you. So, yeah, I kind of went, a lot of people would go for the underdog, so I went for the people that did it well and owned the fact they were doing it well. So, yeah, growing up, I did love to watch Songa, and I watched a lot of his tennis, so I know his tendencies quite well. Um, how do you rate Caroline Wozniacki's chances of winning? A lot higher than I did at the beginning of the fortnight because I was a skeptic about Wozniacki. I had her down as an early upset, and I mean, she hasn't been. It's difficult because by name and by previous results, Maria Sharapova should be the player to challenge Wozniacki. But for Sharapova in recent times, pretty much since she's come back from her drugs ban, although for the year before that I could see her declining in terms of her game, dropping down, losing to players that she wouldn't have lost to before. You just never know how Sharapova is going to play. You don't know if she's going to bring out a high level. She used to be beating the counterpunchers quite easily. I think she's had more trouble with them in recent times. Technically, Sharapova's is a straight up power game, so she should just be getting herself in position, punishing these shots. But if she doesn't bring the consistency, she can't do that. Sharapova has looked good in her first two matches. I watched her double bagel of Harriet Dart. She completely exposed Dart's inexperience there. She was efficient from all areas of the court, which seems to be a phrase that I'm saying a lot this evening. So sorry if I'm particularly uncreative tonight. But yeah, she's done great, and she had Rebecca Peterson in the last round, and Peterson's not a commonly well-known name on the circuit, but Peterson was a very, if I've got the correct person, I believe Peterson was a very promising player on the tour, and then she stopped playing for a couple of years, and then she came back, and she's had a very, very good past 12 months and been trouble for a lot of players. So for Sharapova to come through that in straights was a good win. So Sharapova versus Wozniacki, I'm going to check the head-to-head quickly because I feel like they've had a little bit of a rivalry, and obviously have game styles. They've got that sharp game style contrast of the power player versus very much the counterpuncher. So let's I mean, some of you are probably so annoyed with me, like, come on Abigail, I know that head to head off the top of my head, which I do with a few players, but not with this one. So let's have a look. Yeah, 6-4 Sharapova in the head to head. So Sharapova's had the edge, I guess, over time. She's won their last match, which was, I did not realize they hadn't played for that long. It was in 2015 during the clay court season, so that's coming up to 4 years ago now. 3 sets though on clay, and 2015 was kind of peak Sharapova clay court time. She really came through on clay around 2012 and sustained it for the years after that, to the point where it kind of became her best surface, really. So yeah, that's going to be interesting given the closeness of their rivalry. I'm scanning down now, a lot of their clashes have gone beyond straight sets. Of their most recent ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, So 4 of the last 5 have gone beyond straight sets. So that hints that this should be a close match, especially given the drop in form of Sharapova and the rise in form and confidence of Wozniacki. So they're going in 2 different directions there, which make them even closer together. Lots of ums and ums. Come on, pull yourself together. Which young player left in the draw has the most potential is the question. I'm not sure if you're talking men's or women's or both. I think I was very impressed with Poparin. I'm going to look up a proper pronunciation when I'm off this, just so I can talk about him a bit more, because he was great. I loved watching him. He was he needs to have... I keep talking about consistency, but the mentality and the consistency are 2 things that you cannot win without. And I felt like he had a very, very high level, but sometimes it would go... I mean, in the second set, immediately in the second set against Team, he had 2 opportunities where he streaks out to a lead on the return and had opportunities to break, but then his level dropped a bit and he didn't break. So he needs to be taking those opportunities. And who's he play next? Because he knocked off a seed there in... Do you know what? Before the next episode of this, I'm actually going to sit down and look at people's draws before, so I don't have to waste time typing them in and seeing who they're playing. But he plays Luca Pouille, who is obviously seeded and is dangerous, but Pouille hasn't had the best form in recent years. He's obviously had his moments of brilliance, like when he knocked Nadal out of the US Open in an epic, when he stormed to the semi-finals of a Masters 1000, having qualified for the event. He's had his moments, but you never know when he will have them. Usually he gets up... Well, often he's got up against a top player. So I'm guessing that he doesn't know Poparin's game very well. So yeah, I enjoyed watching him. Obviously, Alex de Minaur, he's seeded, so you can forget how young he is, but he's young and he's very talented. And he next plays Rafael Nadal, so I don't actually see him getting any further. If anyone can pull off the upset, maybe with the crowd behind him, it could be de Minaur early on. But I just think that, I mean, he's just come through a 5-setter when he could have finished in straights. He won that title last week. It's got to catch up to him at some point, and people were hyping up his clash with Nadal at Wimbledon quite a bit, and Nadal handled him incredibly easily in terms of the scoreline there. It was straight sets, and I think Nadal dropped about 7 games or something. So maybe it's a case of overhyping there. Nadal's just looked very comfortable dictating with the forehand. In the few times he's been put in pressure situations, he's dealt with it very well, thought his way through it, brought out the serves out wide, opened up the court, that kind of thing, and come to the net. And he's coming forward quite a lot more than I expected, really, Nadal. So yeah, tough one for de Minaur. That's the men's side. The women's side, obviously, Anisimova is very promising. Diana Yastremska plays Serena Williams next. I'm a bit surprised to see her still in. She just knocks off Carla Suarez Navarro. I've never thought she has the best attitude on court, Yastremska. She can be quite negative. In terms of comparing her to other young players, there's nothing that makes her particularly stand out, but she's capable. If she's smart, she'll go out there swinging against Serena. You can't afford to be too tight. Serena's going to penalise that, especially after today. She had an impressive and controlled win over Bouchard, where she dipped at the beginning of the second set, but apart from that, it was pretty I can't think of the word I want, but efficient, I guess, from Serena. There were things she could have done better. There were unforced errors she could have cut out. But Bouchard tried... Interestingly, I think Bouchard tried playing the same sort of game that Yastremska and a lot of the other younger players would try playing against Serena, just trying to hit really hard from the baseline, be really intense, go for the lowish margin. And Bouchard was doing well to get depth on her shots, but the thing is, Serena just plays that game better and adds stuff on top, like drop volleys, smashes, lobs occasionally. People don't think of Serena as a player of variety because she's so physical, because she's so strong, because she plays with so much power, but actually Serena can bring the whole package. So she's better than these younger players at the power game, and then she has more on top of that. So yeah, if Yastremska's smart, she's just got to go out there, not hold back, and play the match of her life. But yeah, there's still some younger players in the draw. Ashley Barty's getting on. What my sister predicted. I'm putting it out there now without asking her, but she predicted to me earlier that Ashley Barty would the whole tournament. So credit to her if she is correct. I wouldn't have Barty at that level yet. The thing with Barty is she's got all the tools, she's got all the weapons, slice, volleys, because of the doubles game and because of just how talented she is as a player. She's been learning a slice backhand since the age of 6. You can just see the amazing tennis, all court tennis that she's able to produce, but she's just not had the consistency up to now, and she's not brought it in the big moments against the biggest players. But she's had a very good form coming into the tournament, so who knows at the end of the day if it opens up for her. I don't see her beating top players in the latter stages to win, but there's always, as long as someone's in the draw able to play good tennis, there's opportunities. I was very sad for John Millman as well. I thrilled for Roberto Bautista Agut. It's a mouthful, really, because he's now come through 2 5-set matches, both of which he led by 2 sets to love. Then his opponent came back on both occasions with Andy Murray, who potentially, maybe, probably, possibly, but possibly even won't now. Might be retiring. It might have been his last match, although I definitely don't think it is. Gonna look silly now if it is, but I don't think it is. He had the whole crowd behind him then because he had the whole crowd against him then, sorry. Not necessarily because they wanted to be against him, but because they wanted to back Murray. So he had a raucous crowd cheering his opponent in his first match, a raucous crowd cheering his opponent in his second match, and still he was able to mentally overcome the fact that he'd lost 2 sets and bring it together and win it in the 5th. So brilliant from Bautista Agut, who is playing some of the best tennis consistently from the baseline that I've seen, really. Millman, I felt very sorry for him because he had a tough loss in Australia, where he loves to play. It's his home country, obviously. He had a tough marathon loss to Simon ahead of coming into this tournament. So this is back-to-back weeks where he's had a heartbreaker deep in the final set loss. So you had to feel sorry for him because he absolutely wore his heart on his sleeve. He went for broke at the end of the 4th set when it looked like he was out, basically. He was down, I think, 4 points in the tiebreak and then won. So saved 4 match points, I think. So he did incredibly well. That's no comfort when you actually come away having lost the match. But yeah, it is sad for Millman. But incredible as well that he's been able to up the level the way he has. He's had so many surgeries, so many injuries during his career. Came obviously and won against Federer at the US Open, having not had big results against top players before. And it's just great to see that he's coming through as one of Australia's top players at the moment. I mean, other players with more talent than him, arguably, but he's really stringing it together and really full on committing, and it's fantastic to see what he's doing. Never give up. Yeah, Bautista Agut is playing good. Really enjoyable to watch him at the moment. He's doing fantastic stuff. Head-to-head game, physical game, moving up the court. It's great to see his energy. He's doing really well. Plays Karen Khachanov next, who is the 10th seeded higher. See how he deals with that big serve and Khachanov's growing confidence because he's been having great form recently. That should be a good match. Has all the potential. Any predictions for the women's final? At the moment, I think... I wonder if Serena will have difficulties if she comes up against Naomi Osaka, because she lost to her twice last year. Osaka has Sasha Bayan on her side. Bayan spent 8 years with Serena Williams, knew her pretty much inside out, knows her game, knows her as a person, knows her tendencies. So she's got a massive weapon there, and she obviously rises to the occasion, loves playing Serena, wants to play and beat Serena. So if they were to come up against each other in the semi-finals, I wonder, would Serena's frustration at having lost to her twice be enough to get her across the line? Or would Osaka come through again? But if we're going by form and instinct, instinctively, when I was going to predict, I thought Kerber or Osaka, probably in form to win the tournament. Kvitovva's doing well as well, Petra Kvitova. Usually she plays a terrible Australian Open, but somehow she's carrying on her form. She's been to the semis here before. But no, I was thinking along the lines of Kerber Osaka, but then I thought, you know what, Serena Williams, I mean, she thrives under the radar. People were kind of overlooking her. And she's reached the last two Grand Slam finals, having given birth a little over a year ago. I think because it's Serena Williams, you can look over how incredible that is, because she's so used to incredible. That's what she is, that's what she does. But to have achieved those results off the back of giving birth and having a difficult pregnancy, that's ridiculously good. And I think, given the focus she has and the hunger and the desire she obviously still has, I think it would be really stupid to write her off, and I did predict her ahead of the tournament to win. So whether she beats Kerber in the final or someone else, I think I wouldn't have the nerve to back against Serena at the moment. I think she has to win a slam at some point, because she's in such good form, and the slams are what she cares about. She's not worried about even premier tournaments between slams now, let alone I don't know, international events or things lower down. She's just there for the Grand Slams, and she's so invested and has so much experience of performing at optimum level at these events that I don't see, when she's in the draw, how anyone can completely rule her out. Yeah, Muguruza, when she got off court after that marathon match against Konta, I was speaking about it on the radio an hour or so ago. I don't know if time went fast. It was more like 2.5 hours ago. But yeah, she briefly on that match, best quality women's match I've seen of the tournament. I mean, Konta started a bit slower, but from 4-all in the second set, when she had to save break points, Konta started playing like the player we saw rise up in 2016. That I'd almost forgotten she could play like that, because we haven't seen it in so long. But my word, was she driving that forehand deep and getting depth on all her shots, having great firepower, really intense with the rallies, going toe-to-toe with Muguruza. And honestly, for the majority of the third set, I thought Konta was the better player. She was setting up textbook cross-court rallies, forehand, backhand, forehand, opening it up, wrong footing with the forehand, coming to the net, doing everything just right. She was great. She really was. And I felt like in the final set, Konta was more relaxed, and Muguruza almost seemed to be forcing her fight. She seemed more anxious than Konta was, more kind of uptight. And she still played really well, Muguruza, and I think the thing that got her through in the end was her serve, because when she was down, Konta was the player having more opportunities, and Muguruza would look like, almost like she was going down after nearly being a straight sets winner. She looked in some danger sometimes in the third set, because Konta was just nailing everything and dictating. But, sorry, knocked that. Yeah, what Muguruza had in her favour was the fact she was serving first, and the fact that when she was down, she would pull out some massive serves, and she would just grit her way through. And it was, in a way, it was similar to the Wimbledon final of 2014, an absolute epic, presuming I've got the right year. Djokovic and Federer going toe-to-toe, high-quality tennis, all the way through the fifth set. Federer forced the fifth, and all the way through they went, and fantastic tennis. And then it came to one final game, a couple of unforced errors from Federer, and that was it. Djokovic had the Wimbledon title when they'd been on a level all the way through. And it almost reminded me of that, because Konta arguably had the edge throughout the third set. Both of them had been throwing the kitchen sink at each other, really, all over the court. And Muguruza, one break point, and she took it and she won. And that was all it took. You can't relent in a match of that quality. You can't afford to not be there for one moment, because then it could all be over. So yeah, so Muguruza joked. I don't know if she joked or if she was being serious, but they left the court at, after 3 a.m. She said she was on her way to have breakfast. So if she did, she deserved to enjoy it. Her best match, for both of them, two players that have struggled over the past year, their best match and their best performance in a long time. So that means good stuff for Muguruza. If you remember, I did predict Garbine Muguruza to win a slam this year. I just thought that for a player of her caliber, quality, abilities, after a year like last year where she struggled so much, the only way is up, and a Grand Slam is the way to go. Will Williams win the tournament? Yes, I'm predicting Serena to win. If not her, I think Kerber will probably get it. Venus, her form, I mean, she's not necessarily playing her best tennis, but her grit is impressive. Would I call her to win the tournament? No, but she's still doing well. I'm going to finish answering these questions and then draw it to a close because we're nearly at the 1 hour, 5 minute mark, which is where we stopped yesterday. I think someone mentioned before, the comments come up briefly on the screen, someone mentioned that we had more viewers than last time, so maybe this is a better time of day. Before I go, at some point, comment and let me know whether you prefer this time of day. I don't know where in the world you are. Thank you for watching wherever you are, but just let me know which time of day works better for you. I did around midday. It was like 1 o'clock last time, thinking it was a decent time. But if this works better, let me know, and we, well, I'm not sure if I could do it this late on, it would be Saturday. No, I don't think I could do it this late on Saturday. But we'll see. I will let you know in advance. Someone thinks Osaka will win. You know, she could. She has the form to. She has the game to. I've answered about Wozniacki. Yeah, best of 5 decides who the best are. It separates the great from the good, in my opinion. Yeah, here's the thing. There was a lot of controversy about having the players on so late. I mean, Muguruza and Konta were brought on after midnight, and people were like, that shouldn't be happening. I mean, me and one of my sisters were joking about how the Aussies are so chilled out that if it was 3 a.m. and it stopped raining and everything was fine, they'd probably be like, oh, we've got floodlights, we've got a roof on, throw the players out on court, let them play the match, just having a laugh. But I mean, really, I think they should have been moved to another court, but I mean, it's good for, I guess, people in Spain, people in Britain that wanted to watch the match, and they could watch it without having to drag themselves up at some unearthly hour. So there we go. Do you think Shapovalov will upset Djokovic? I mean, I wouldn't outright call him to upset Djokovic, but of the players he's faced so far, I think he could give him a run for his money. I believe that Tsonga beat Shapovalov here last year in 5 sets. It was either 4 sets of... No, I think he lost to Kyrgios in 4 sets and beat Shapovalov the round before in 5. High quality match. Really good match. And that's the sort of tennis Shapovalov can play to trouble these top players, you know. He's, I think, more aggressive than Djokovic. So if Djokovic is even a little bit off, Shapovalov could expose that. He has the potential to upset. It's just, can he get through Djokovic's physical game and Djokovic's mentality? Because that's what is still there when his physical game might not necessarily be. Yeah, Djokovic, I think Djokovic did look a bit patchy in places against Tsonga, and it was probably forgiven by the fact that Tsonga himself was not consistent. There were times when Tsonga definitely had the chance to step up and didn't take that chance. And in the first match as well, you know, Djokovic wasn't perfect. So, I mean, there are always chances, but Djokovic is just an incredible champion. He hangs so tough, and when he's in form like he is now, he just doesn't go away. So you almost have to beat him 3 times over before the job is actually done. See if Shapovalov has the mentality for that. Shapovalov looks sharp, apparently. I can't say I've really watched Shapovalov so far this fortnight. It would probably help in terms of predictions if I had. But there you go, can't watch everyone. I've watched as many people as I can. I will definitely be watching that Djokovic-Shapovalov match if I... Apparently I inadvertently answered someone's questions ahead of time. Well, there's a lot of stuff I've missed. I'm just kind of, excuse me while I take my time going through now. I've completely... I have completely lost my place. Wow. There's a lot of stuff that I missed. A lot of stuff. Okay, right, we've had that. We've had that. If there's one thing we know about the WTA, winning a big tournament means almost nothing for the next one. So true. That is like a fact of life. It is really true. I mean, Halep was in great form going into one Grand Slam, and I thought that rang warning bells, because it's not necessarily the best thing to be in form ahead of a big event. Sometimes I've predicted winners based on the fact that I've been in great form ahead of time. Didn't work with Stan Wawrinka making the semis this fortnight, but it was worth a try. I had a go. Dan Evans did play out of his skin, and if he can take the confidence from that and the motivation from that, there's no reason why he can't get his way back into the top 50 and even higher. He produced a very high level of tennis there. Needs to make sure his fitness is in the right place and everything, and he should be good to go. Federer looking for title number 100, yes, as he was a few months ago. It's crazy because at one point Federer was just winning, and then there were people asking him about the 100 titles question at Wimbledon. At one point, he, like 2 weeks in advance of Wimbledon, people thought he would have the opportunity to win it there, and that didn't happen. I remember asking him a question about it in the first press conference of Federer's I went to at Wimbledon. I asked him about, I think I asked him about how it would have affected his mentality or not affected him if he was playing for 100 titles at Wimbledon, if that would have had any bearing on it. And I mean, that was ages ago, so it's been a while since Federer had the opportunity. No, Halep's not in the best form she's been in at all. She can definitely produce a higher level. Yeah, but I think, you know, she's world number 1 for a reason. She's been consistent away from the big stages, even if she hasn't been on them all the time. And yeah, she's done well to grind through. Venus has done well to grind through. It's about who ups their level more for that occasion. Shapovalov overhyped? I don't know. I haven't heard much Shapovalov hype recently, to be honest. I mean, it's been he was hyped a lot at one point. I didn't think it was. I'm never one for hype anyway, in case the player doesn't break through. But I never thought it was massively overdone. Venus in 3. Prediction there. Can Svitolina finally reach the first Slam semi-final of her career? Obviously, she showed she was in great form at the WTA finals, so, you know, maybe. Svitolina, who does she play next? I'm going to check this one quickly. Shuai Zhang, who got a big win over Simona Halep here in the first round a couple of years ago, after having gone 14 straight Grand Slam matches in her career. She hadn't won 14 straight, so yeah, that could be a tough one. But Svitolina, from what I saw quite a bit of her first round match, very impressive. It's just a case of sustaining it for her, and sometimes Svitolina just comes up against a player who outplays her. I don't think she's the best on tour by any means, but that WTA finals win with 5 wins over quality players will have given her a lot of confidence. Yeah, I'm not sure I get this Shapovalov overhype thing. Maybe I'm missing stuff because of the part of the world I'm in, but I don't really hear him spoken about a lot at the moment. What do you think about, Sharapova, Wozniacki we've spoken about. Yeah, I mean, Chung is getting beaten a lot. I mean, it's still a shame for him that he drew Herbert, because that is a tough draw for any player. But... yeah, I mean, well, I don't think Herbert's going any further anyway because he's up against Raonic, but yeah, Chung, I think Chung probably did, I mean, he definitely did better than anyone expected to reach the semis last year, but still unfortunate for him to draw that early on. And Chung, there's still a long way for him to go, you know, he's still young, so... Going down. Pick for the winner on the men's side, still Djokovic. Sometimes I'm doubtful, but still Djokovic. Yeah, fast forward 10 years and we'll still have Nadal, Federer and Djokovic competing in Grand Slam semis. I mean, could conceivably happen. I do at the moment see Federer playing into his 40s. The others are obviously a lot younger than him, so... Do you think Zverev will win a major this year? I don't. I think he's the leading contender of the younger players, but I think 7 matches, best of 5 sets. Is he ready to overcome that hurdle yet? It's probably the next step, because obviously he won the ATP finals, but I see him winning slams in the future. I'm just not sure if it will happen this year for Alexander Zverev. Okay, so this is a good time for weekdays, apparently. Let's think. It's Thursday. Am I confusing myself? It is Thursday today, which means... Okay, yeah, that's correct. So third round ends on Saturday, and fourth round ends on Monday. So Monday will be the last day we're doing one of these lives, and the next one will be on Saturday. I'm sorry, I don't think I can do it as late as this. So I'll try and do it in the afternoon, earlier afternoon at some points. Who left do you feel has had the most disappointing performance so far? It's hard to say, because, I mean, if they've got to this round, they've got here for a reason. So, I mean, obviously, I think Halep could have won more easily than she has. There are players that have fought their way through that could have gone through more easily. But, you know, they're here. It's another chance for them. And it's hard to talk about disappointing performances from players that have actually won. So, yeah, interesting question. It's not one that you often hear asked, but hard to answer as well, which is probably why it isn't often asked. But okay, I think we'll wrap up there. Oh my word, 1 hour and 15 minutes. We will wrap up there. Thank you for watching, for joining in, for liking the video. I've seen the likes go up at the top. It's got a little chart. So, yeah. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, be up to date. We'll have more live videos, we'll have preview and predictions videos next week. Potentially some more content that I'm thinking about, but I mean, you know me, when do I get around to stuff? Yeah, thank you for everyone that's tuned in. Thank you for those that have stayed the whole way. Thank you for asking questions, I appreciate it, and for your support of the channel and for being here. Yeah, I will be back. I will be tweeting about matches. I will probably be on Love Sport Radio again. You can listen at lovesportradio.com. I've been on every day of the tournament so far, talking about the action, what's been going on. So, yep, let's end it there. Thank you for watching. Hope you're enjoying the tennis, and hope I get some predictions right, because we can never guarantee, can we?